I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Tuesday, February 1st at 6:12 p.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Joe Shank present.
Jeff Sexton Duranian present.
And Veronica Kell present. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded and it should be live on Channel 9 and it will be posted on YouTube after the fact. Chairman's additions or deletions. I don't believe I have anything to add. Anybody else?
No.
All right. So 1.6, review and approve the meeting
Gonna do
minutes
public
for
comment.
118. Pardon me?
You stepped over public.
Oh,
comment.
public comment. I'm sorry. 1.5, public comment period. Thank you, Joe. Is there anybody that has a comment tonight before we get started? Okay, seeing none, on to 1.6. Review and approve the minutes for 1/18/2022. So everybody should have received those. Is there anything that needs changed or? It's in the meetings for review folder.
I already read them once earlier. I was good.
I was okay with it.
Okay with it?
Yeah.
So is there a motion to accept the minutes from 1/18/2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Jeff Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to 2.1. This is the joint meeting with the planning board to discuss and vote to approve the UPWP grant application that is due on February 8th. So this is the same planning grant that was used for the bikeability and walkability study through MRPC and the Canal Street, West Elm Street intersection. So in your packet, you should see the project solicitation that came from Sherry Bean. And before I talk any more, would the planning board like to call their meeting to order? I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I was sort of trying to get your attention, but I did not raise my hand, so how would you know? Okay. In the absence of Lance McNally this evening, I will be chairing the planning board meeting here, the joint meeting of the planning board, which I would like to call to order at 6:17 p.m. And may I have a roll call vote?
Carol Hofstas.
Julie Byers present.
Ian?
Muted.
Oh, there you go. You're present.
Okay. And Laura Schifrin present. I don't believe Mike was able to get on, and neither was Lance, but we do have a quorum of the board. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
All right,
Did you-
so I guess, Laura, the next question is, do you want me to present this? Or is Beth on? Would she like to? Or would you like to, Laurie?
Beth is on, and Beth can present to both boards.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can.
Well, I don't have the letter to put up on the screen share. I don't know if somebody wants to screen share it, but we're essentially prioritizing the intersection analysis of 119 and Route 13 by requesting to extend that around the common, the town common. So you can see in the letter that there are a couple of bullet items there to look at the well, if you wanted to go through it, Chairman Cal, that would be fine, but I don't have the letter.
I'm going to try to grab it to screen share, so keep talking. If talk about what's on it and pull it up.
I do have it. I can go through that.
Yeah, the intersection study of 119.
Okay, I can do that for you,
13.
Veronica.
Yeah,
Can you share it, Laurie? Sure, if you have it available, I have to
I
bring it up on my.
can't share it.
okay.
I cannot share it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
that tech savvy. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
But I can review. Can you hear me?
If you want to read it, that would be fine.
Can you hear
If you
me,
give
or is
me a
something
minute.
wrong with my connection?
We can hear.
Dave,
Yes.
Can you give me download capability or screen share capability?
Yeah, you can do that, just ask them.
All right, Lee, could you give me screen share capability, please?
Yeah, you're all set.
Am I? Okay, let me get
Yeah.
back to my Zoom. All right, let me pull it up.
But essentially, the Route 119, Route 13 intersection analysis was on a previous request. And because the UPWP program was restructured, it was removed from previous UPWP programming. And so through, looking at the walkability study recommendations through the DOT shared streets and spaces planning effort, we really felt that that intersection still should be a priority, and that I guess we would have to re-act for that, which is why that's top on the list. If they decide that they're only going to pick one thing, we felt strongly enough about that intersection study since it's the heart of the town. But we would like to ask for the whole common, the area around the common, to extend it as sort of a corridor analysis, but around every intersection around there. And the curb cuts that we discovered through the walkability study by Honeyland Farms, that's on there. The pedestrian crosswalks, all the crosswalks surrounding the common, the entrance to the parking area at the back of the common, so there are just around the whole common, there are a number of bullet items that we've included, but number one would be, if they had to just pick one thing, it would be that traffic study, the intersection analysis study, I'm sorry.
So, so this is what we've listed. So we've included everything that we could right around the common, because we want that whole area looked at as far as study, as far as a traffic study goes. So I guess for the board, are there any questions from the Board of Selectmen, and then we'll go to the planning board?
I don't have any questions.
I guess this is, I think something was brought up earlier by a resident of we're not trying to consider this traffic study to put like a rotary around that whole common, are we? Is that what this is about, or just?
Oh, well, we don't have any, there's nothing there yet. It's just to look at it and see
Where we go.
where the suggestions are. One of the things when we were doing shared streets and spaces, where Highland comes into Brookline, there are two like islands there. And the planner looked at that and said, oh, here's a better way to do it, and to just have one island, and to change you know, so she had suggestions there, but there's nothing that we could do with that because we hadn't had a study done. So this is a study just to look at what's happening there. The other thing that she had noted is the last bullet on here, the crosswalk from the Catholic Church area across to that parking lot goes right into the entrance to the parking lot. So you have people crossing the street, and at the same time, the cars are turning into the parking lot right through or right on that crosswalk. And so they were like, that's really dangerous. The crosswalk should be on one side or the other of the parking area. But again, we didn't do anything there. It was beyond. But she said you really should look at this and decide. The area that goes towards Honeyland Farms, because it's just all open there. So the traffic, people that don't want to wait, cut right through that parking lot to get onto 13 North instead of waiting until they get to the roadway to turn. Another dangerous area. And anyway, so the crosswalks there as well. So we've included traffic and crosswalks on this. And we don't know if MRPC will be happy with that. They might want to do just the traffic study or just the crosswalk study, but we decided we'd go through the whole boat
I'm good with that, Madam Chair.
all at once. And this letter that you're looking at has the planning board header and my signature, but it needs to come from the Board of Selectmen. So we will, as long as the content of the letter is good with everybody, we will change the header to be the Board of Selectmen header, and all three of us will need to sign at the bottom. So those are the only edits that need to be done there. So. Any questions from the planning board? For either Beth or me?
Any planning board members would like to make a comment?
No comment.
Okay,
All right,
if
so-
not, well, I was going to make a comment, but I wanted the board members to speak first. Veronica, a great letter, and I found it really interesting. I'm not sure what was done when they did the 13 and 119, if you want to call it expansion, when they redid the lights, and I can't remember how many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I remember living through it anyway, but I'm not sure what that study showed, but it certainly didn't correct the problem when they did that. So I think you're right to put it at the top of the list, and also right to have a study of the effects of what will happen if they do this, because I think it was not thought out fully the last time that this was done. So I'm hoping too that MRPC will consider this, because I think it will give us the opportunity for an improvement for that area and hopefully around the whole common. I think you did a great job. So I want to support the letter that you have written.
So Beth and I did this together. This was both of us, because we're both on
You
NJ.
did a great job. Thank you, Beth.
Lord. So anyway, all right. So I guess at this point we would need a vote from the planning board to accept the letter. If there are no more comments. Are there any comments, I guess, from the audience? Maybe I should ask that. I don't see any. It's hard when I'm sharing my screen to see anything.
Ronnie?
Anyway,
Ronnie,
Lisa,
is that
I think
That's Joan.
is that Joan?
That's Joan.
Go ahead, Joan.
hi, just one thought, and thank you for this study. It's really needed now, especially since Honeyland wants to start selling liquor and alcohol in the store.
Okay, is there a question or no?
No, it's just to be noted.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Laurie, I guess if perhaps a vote from the planning board to accept this.
Yes, ma'am.
And then a vote from the Board of Selectmen. So if you'd like to.
Yes, ma'am. I will do that.
If I may, Madam Chair, Madam Chair Schifrin, you would, in this case, need to appoint Ian as a full voting member, correct? Because you don't have quite a quorum. So if you could do that.
Yes,
Please.
thank you for reminding me. Thank you. Yes, I don't need a motion. I can just appoint him, right? You told me that. Okay, so making the statement that I have appointed Ian Santiago to be a voting member this evening
Thank you.
to fill the quorum.
Ian Ortiz, sorry.
Ian Ortiz. My bad. Okay, does that cover it, Beth?
Thank you.
Okay, so you can have that in the minutes. I'll entertain a motion from the planning board to accept this letter as written by Ms. Kell, Selectman Kell, that we support the letter. Do I have that motion?
Make a motion to accept the letter written by Veronica Kell.
Thank you, Carol. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Julie. Any more discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Julie Byers, yes.
Ian Ortiz, yes.
And Laura Schifrin, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so moving to the Board of Selectmen, is there a motion to submit the letter?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve and submit the letter as amended on selectmen letterhead with selectmen signatures.
Second,
Planning board accepts that amendment.
Thank you. On BOS letterhead. And signatures.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes. So what we'll do, Beth, is tomorrow, I'll get this letter to you with the letterhead and the correct signatures. And we'll put it on the shelf in here for signing.
We'll be
And
done with tomorrow.
and then you could send it, should you send it, Beth, or should we send it to MRPC?
Either way is fine. I can take care of it.
All right, let's have you go ahead and send it to MRPC then, if that's all right, Beth, planning board. All right. All right, so Laurie, if you'd like to close the meeting for the
Well.
planning board.
Yes. Thank you very much, Beth. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the planning board meeting, joint meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the joint planning board meeting.
I'll second
Thank
that
you, Carol.
motion.
Thank you, Julie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Julie Byers, yes.
Ian Ortiz, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, so moving on to 2.2, and we're right at 6:30, so perfect timing. We're going to go on to a presentation by Mike Crowley on Squanicook Meadows. Last meeting, there was some confusion as to exactly what this is, and Mike is going to talk about it. So would you like to come up here to the
Sure,
table?
yeah, what's
so
the
that-
easiest way for everyone to hear me?
If you're closer to the aisle, I think.
See, there's
somewhere in
I've
here.
seen in the past, people pull up a chair, so I'm gonna pull up a
Yeah.
chair. Can everybody hear me good? Over there? Anyone? Yes? All right, we're gonna go forward and shout out if I'm not being loud enough. So yeah, thanks for taking a couple minutes and let me just kind of walk through this. I was sitting in the last meeting and it seemed like there was a lot of questions and a lot of people with great wanting to know more about what's going on and where we're at currently with the situation at Squanicook Meadows, where we're discussing a lease and a possible management plan in the form of a conservation restriction for the area, including the area of the soccer field. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes and kind of go through where we're at this point. I've been here for about 4 weeks, so I didn't want to be offering any personal, professional opinions on this. It's kind of something we've had people here in the town who've been working on this for a long time, over a year at this point, and everybody's been weighing in. So what I did, and I've kind of, hopefully you've gotten, I've asked for statements and information directly from the different people involved. And if you don't have it, did he get one?
Yeah.
There he is. Yep. So there should be different statements and information there from different people. There's information from, there was a comment that was submitted from TESA. There's a comment that's submitted by the National Heritage. There's a comment there from an official decision report from Concom. And there was also a lot of great public engagement in terms of this issue. I had people calling all the time and offering comments. So there's even some private residents who've asked if they could weigh in. And I just said, well, if you want to send me some information, I'll pass it along for the board to make their own decision with, just to have it included if they wish. So firstly, I want to just clarify, at the moment, there is no proposal currently being explored which would reduce or eliminate recreational use at the site. There's a lot of concern at the last meeting that this discussion was about closing the soccer fields, and that, as far as I know, no one has officially discussed that at this point, and no one wants that as far as I can tell. And I've talked to a lot of people in town, so I'm happy to say that that's not something that's being discussed at this point. But to just kind of give a background where we're at and what we're doing, a little over a year ago, a process was initiated by TESA, that's the Soccer Association, to reach out to National Heritage and Endangered Species Program. They wanted to open a conversation, which is called a pre-consultation, about increased soccer capacity at the area of Squanicook Meadows. They've been having ongoing communication and had some site visits, and the determination was made that it was viable to simultaneously continue and expand the soccer use and protect wildlife, but it would require a new permit. The new permit would have to come through the National Heritage because the area is a special area of concerned habitat for wildlife, and so a new permit would require just management and planning that would yield a net benefit to wildlife overall. So TESA and National Heritage worked together to kind of come up with some options. TESA came forward with 2 pathways, which were presented and heard by Concom on December 8th. The 2 pathways that were discussed at that meeting were 1, a conservation restriction on the property, and 2, a deed in fee transfer to Concom. The Conservation Commission considered both options and determined that the deed in fee transfer was not a good pathway forward, and unanimously voted to support the conservation restriction. So just for some background, the conservation restriction hasn't been drafted yet. There's no official language that's been put together yet. It's something that if the conservation restriction was drafted, it would be townspeople working together. It'd be the kind of thing where we'd have all the different parties involved drafting it. It would involve the town drafting a comprehensive master plan that would outline the areas preserved for recreational use and outline areas preserved for habitat. This plan would yield the net benefit for wildlife preservation at the site while supporting the increased and sustained capacity for soccer. It would also create better transparency in management because they would have a reference document that we could go back to if there was any questions going down the line, or if there's anything in terms of lease renewals that we need to be checking. A proposed plan would include expansion of the soccer field to soccer use to a 3rd field, would include additional parking. It would include retention of the current structure capacity. Right now, there's only 1 structure on site. There's a capacity for 2. It would also include outlines for other permissible uses in the area as needed, including management and use of the well site on the property, and best practices such as locations of having the dumpster in a location that's away from wildlife nesting areas, and just establishing management routines. We have been operating this area for, I think, 20 years now as a soccer use area. And it's been a great area that people in town have really loved. It's been a great situation where we've had wildlife there. We have a well site there. The well is not currently active right now, but it's being explored for future use, but nothing in the short term, and certainly. It's a great place where we can basically say, well, we're going to do both. and make it work. It's very remarkable, actually, that you guys have done such great work. And so many people came together and had these conversations because they managed to find a way that everyone gets what they want, which is really excellent, I have to say. So at current before the board, there are two options. One is the lease can be renewed as stands without any issue. You wouldn't need an extra permit for that because you're just renewing the lease. This wouldn't allow for new expansion of the fields because that would require a permit. Or you could authorize the development of a conservation restriction with comprehensive master plan, which would meet the national heritage standards and the well use regulations, because the well has its own regulations about what can happen within a certain distance of a well site. They're actually more comprehensive than the heritage standards, including, so there would have to be revisions and acknowledgement of that, just because that's a town use and we want to preserve that as well as the other uses for going forward in the property. But the development of the comprehensive master plan in the CR would allow for the expansion of the third field and reduce the future regulatory burden because it would create a long-term document that we can reference going forward, and we wouldn't have to keep going back to other parties and having more discussions because we'd have everything set down and codified early on. So we could have that going forward. So that's kind of the quick once over. And so I'm happy to answer more questions and get into more detail. I tried to keep it short to not get too far into the weeds on any one issue, but I can talk more about anything. I can have it.
So what I'd like to do is open first to the selectmen. So if you have a question to ask, and then Mike, are you good with answering questions?
I can do the best I can. I've been a packet full of information and I've been talking to a lot of people, so I'm happy to give as much information as I can. If there is anything that I don't feel that I should speak on at this point, because I don't want to speak for somebody else if they haven't told me to, I'll just ask to find more information. But this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm happy to be doing for the board on these kind of issues, is doing background briefing, getting information together and giving you kind of a brief heads up briefing material so you can decide and make better informed decisions. So yeah, do you guys have any questions?
So just to go over what's in the packet for the selectmen, there was a letter from TESA, a letter from NHESP, Mass Fish and Wildlife, the letter from the Conservation Commission clarifying their vote that took place in December. A letter from Emily Fine, who is one of the permit holders for the endangered species on the property for monitoring. And I guess the second letter here as well. So there was also information brought from the water department.
Yes, so I have information from the water department. I can share that with you guys. I didn't know how much information you wanted to get bombarded at this point.
What I want to clarify is that the owner of the fee on the property is the town of Townsend. And the deed includes a plan for a potential well field.
Okay, so I have a copy of the deed here. I didn't make copies for you guys, but I can make copies for you guys right now. But I can hand this to you so you can reference that, and there you go.
Okay.
And the water department highlighted the two relevant sections there at the bottom.
Right.
They were really great. They came by my office and I had a nice chat with them. They really they're on top of it and I really appreciated it. They showed up with everything I wanted. I walked in Monday morning and I had a giant packet on my desk. It was awesome.
Right. So to the selectmen first.
Well, Madam Chair, I'd say you probably ought to speak first on this because you're well versed and up to date on your thoughts here.
Well, I really wanted yours.
Yeah, well.
I think my thoughts were out there. From my standpoint, TESA came to us in June because the lease was up, and they came to us essentially with what is written in their letter and the letter from the NHESP, because they had been working together. And they asked so we extended the lease for 3 months to get more information. So as the liaison for conservation, I did go out and talk to, I talked to Dave Paulson, I talked to the permit holders. I know I met with James and some of the CONSCOM, and the decision was made in September at our Board of Selectmen meeting to turn the decision over to Conservation Commission for them to decide which way to go, which is what Mike just talked about. And December was when it was finally agended and they had a full board and they voted unanimously to do the CR. So the purpose of the last meeting, our last meeting, I thought was to say, okay, the CR was, the conservation came back for the CR, so we have to work on that, figure out how to do that, and then look at the lease to see, because we have a lease that we need to renew for TASA. Are you Tricia?
I am.
Okay, so Tricia Foster from TASA, you're on the TASA board, correct?
I'm no longer on the board.
You're
I'm
no
just
longer on
supporting
the
the
board,
board.
but
The
did
next
you
year-
write the lease that you sent to us?
Yes, I worked
in
with
September,
Gary.
the
Olmsted.
sample lease?
Yep.
So,
Well, it's not a sample. We modified the previous lease.
okay, all
So
right.
it was the existing lease that we just track changes.
Yes, so we have that, and that was in our September packets. So in any event, I guess what we have to do tonight is decide whether we are doing the conservation piece of it or not. If not, they get the same lease that they've always had, and it pretty much negates expansion of the fields. Nobody is opposed to expanding the fields, I don't think. It's just a matter of where can you expand, given the fact that it's priority habitat, and where can't you? And how do you define that? And really, TASA and NHGSP has done all the work on this pretty much, I think. So it's up to us, because we all are the holders of the fee. We are the owners of the property. We represent the town of
the Board
Towns.
of Selectmen, yes.
So the first thing we have to decide is what we're gonna do with that, and that is the decision that it would be nice to make tonight. And then that can inform where we go from here, as far as we need to give them some sort of access come the end of March, because that's when the lease is done.
How long is the lease for? What's the average lease? Is it a 3 years, what I read?
By charter, we can only give a 3-year lease. The other thing, because in September, for the meeting in September, and I think you guys saw this too, town council reviewed the lease that TASA gave to us. And there were a few things that need to be considered in there. But yeah, we only give 3-year leases. But there can be things written in to kind of keep it rolling, so to speak. The other thing about that property, which is not part of this discussion, is not the property, the lease is procurement. There was a procurement issue that town council brought up. The fact that we are leasing it to someone, we need to kind of put it out to bid if it's town property. So there's a piece there too, and these are things that we need to decide so that in March we know what direction we're going as far as the fields go. So, other questions?
I have comments, I don't have questions.
Okay, comments are fine. So Chaz, if you would like to comment.
I agree 100% with your history in regards to leading up to last week's meeting. That's
Right.
indeed what I had understood. My frustration, which was pretty obvious because I looked at it on the tape and I could see my frustration, is that it was a Board of Selectmen discussion and it turned into a public hearing, or other people
Or
were
something,
commenting
right,
on it.
right.
We never had fully the opportunity to discuss this matter.
Right.
Therefore, this is why I asked to table it. I wanted to clear the air so that we could have a conversation like we are having tonight. So I want to be very clear in regards to that. That's number one. Number two is I have also been involved in this for over a year in regards to looking at the protected species that are in this particular area. And I have talked to an outside biologist, who actually is the main biologist for the Navy over at Quabbin. Talked about this particular species and the particular area in which we're talking about. And it is, and it should be a highly protected area because this is one of the only nesting sites within this particular area of the state. It is very important as far as that is concerned. I understand that there was a question or it was posed that there had been nothing, that this has been operating for over 20 years, so we can continue on operating in the same way. We don't see a problem as opposed to doing something with the decision that we have to make tonight. My only feedback to that is that this is not what's been happening over 20 years. They are proposing to add additional fields and doing construction on it, which does, to me, change the whole scope and vision of what it was previous to that. Having said that, I feel that we've done our due diligence, and as a town property, I believe that we do need to protect and do all that we can as far as the conservation of this particular, or portions of this particular land. And I'm talking about the well field, and I'm talking about the where the protected species are. So therefore, I personally feel that a conservation restriction is something that we do need to look at. And that's my comment.
So.
Look at that, Joe.
Anything to add, or
So,
subtract, as the case may be.
no, and I took a stance last week, and I've done such as I've talked to some people. First and foremost, I will say we have to make sure we protect the wildlife out there. And there's no doubt about it. My statement I made, I'll stick with it. The turtles, everybody's been coexisting with each other for 20 years, but I think what I've, as you said, Chaz, I've done a little more. This isn't the standard just we're renewing. We need to expand. And for me, that's kind of put a little different perspective for where I stand, because if we're going to expand, we want to still make sure that whatever we do, we're protecting the wildlife and making sure we're protecting our resources if we need the well ever. However, I'm not a big believer of putting a restriction on anybody, but if that's our only way to get this solved so that Taser can kind of move forward to put an expansion on, I mean, we just gotta figure out how to get there and do it right. I think, my opinion, if Taser is going to be investing money into this and going to be expanding and parking and stuff, I would like to see some sort of a little bit longer than a 3-year lease, so that they don't invest all this money into it, and then 3 years from now, we could have a totally different board and not be there. And, you know, I don't know if there's any way around that.
I think we can build in things to
help that along, yeah.
But I think what I'd like to do, based on what, is just read some of Dave Paulson's letter. Is that okay, Mike?
You can do whatever you want, absolutely. I work for you guys, you kidding me?
Okay, so this, Dave Paulson is the Senior Endangered Species Review Biologist for the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. So, and this is the back of the page that you have. So based on our initial discussions, Taser was interested in pursuing the proposed expansion and further exploring how to qualify for a CMP, Comprehensive Master Plan. Is that what that-
Conservation Management Permit.
Thank you, Conservation Management Permit.
That was my bad that I
Which
used something
is
that had the
what
same
they
acronym as
need,
something else.
because it's priority habitat. If we, the owners of the property, were to allow this, they would need to obtain that permit.
Well, we first go through the MISA process,
Yes.
which is the Mass Endangered Species Act review process. Based on discussions with Natural Heritage, they felt, given the property and the species, they would want us to pursue a conservation and management permit, which would have some enhancement benefits for the species and some restrictions as well.
Okay, so that's the CMP. So continuing on, our discussions have focused, and when he says "our," he's talking about his discussions with TESA, have focused on identifying a suitable net benefit. The first step in the process is always to look first on and near the project site, and we believe that there is net benefit opportunity on site. Specifically, the protection, restoration, and enhancement of suitable nesting, foraging habitat for state listed species. In order to achieve long-term net benefit, permanent land protection under Article 97 is the most common tool. The two most common ways to achieve this are: one, a conservation restriction held by a qualified entity, example, a land trust, a conservation or other conservation entity, or two, a deed in fee transfer of the open space parcel to the Conservation Commission acting through their Article 97 authority. So those are the two things that we asked the Conservation Commission to explore. And they came back and said, let's go with number one in that list. The other element of the net benefit plan would be habitat management. This would include soil scarification and removing young pine and other pioneering species that are overtaking the suitable nesting habitat. And I think, James, that's what you were talking about during the meeting last week. To summarize, the goal with this approach is to find a build-out scenario that balances the natural resources, existing open space value, and the interest in expanded recreational opportunities. The permitting approach described above only relates to the proposed expansion that is currently before the division, meaning the Division of Fish and Wildlife. This consultation does not impact the current status and use of the existing fields in any way. Finally, a goal with this permitting approach is to account for the growing needs of TESA, as well as the natural resources on site in a single master plan. This plan can serve as a roadmap for realizing current and future goals. As such, it would be appropriate for the lease agreement and any associated MOU to reflect the proposed project if pursued. And then please let me know if you have any questions. So the idea was always to allow for the expansion, but to find the best way to do it. And that's why we're sitting here with this question before us. So anything further from the board or anything from James? Are you here for conservation or TESA or both? Well, if you have anything that you would like to add or from TESA, now would be the time to
So
do
I
it.
just would like to, I don't know if this was clear to everybody, but the conservation restriction is something that David had asked TESA to bring before the town as the property owner as something to pursue. So, and it's, the conservation restriction relates to the conservation management permit in that it's something that we've been asked to pursue, but they're actually different. So if TESA were to look to expand, to do the expansions, we would have to go through the NISA approval and then obtain a conservation and management permit from Natural Heritage. Simultaneously, the town could pursue the conservation restriction through the Division of Conservation Services as well. So with respect to the lease and understanding that we're interested in renewing our lease and continuing operations and activities on the field, there's the opportunity in the lease to include a clause, and obviously I would look to town council for this, that what during the town retains the ability to pursue the conservation restriction at any time during the lease in order to have a lease on the property. Is that something that the board was amenable to?
And that would be the main goal is to work in conjunction with TESA, because we don't want to, if for everybody to be able to move forward, as long as we all understand that this is what's going to happen, I don't have issues with that.
So I guess what I'm looking for from the board is a motion to go forward with the conservation restriction. And then our next meeting is going to be looking at how we do that, setting up a committee or whatever to talk about how we're going to get that done, and then also to look at the lease.
So I can give you that motion.
Just,
right
so you
now.
know, there is a conservation restriction model.
Yes,
Okay.
we have it, and
Okay.
it is in the SharePoint from the last meeting.
Mhm.
I put, and Dave Paulson had sent it to me.
Okay, great. So you're not
And-
starting from scratch.
No, not at all. What are the allowed uses? What are the restricted uses? Where on the property can
Mhm.
you, and where can't you? Those sorts of things.
It's very
So, but he
specific.
had a model that is separate from the conservation restriction, the model CR for properties that are not NHESP properties.
Correct.
They're similar, but not, there's word. And I had asked him for that because I had no idea how to write a CR, how to fit what needed to be done for this property into the normal model. But he has language, so anyway. And we have it as well. So,
So I'm prepared to make a motion,
thank
Madam
you,
Chair.
Tricia. All right,
I move that we place a conservation restriction on a portion of Squanicook Meadows properties.
say that again?
I move that we place a conservation restriction on a portion of Squanicook Meadows properties,
On a portion or on the entire thing?
however it needs to be worded.
Just say on the Squanicook Meadow
There you go.
property.
Okay,
That's what I heard him say.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Jeff Sexton Duranian, yes.
Joe Shank, no.
Veronica Kell, yes. So the ayes have it.
There you go. Get it done.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mike,
Yeah,
for
and I can
Thank you,
just
doing
say,
all the research and putting it all together.
well, I just want to say, I love the fact that it was a great thing for me to be coming in on, because there was a lot of public engagement on this, a lot of people very vocal, stepping forward, sharing lots of great information. I really appreciated it. So I'm really glad that this is something I was able to help with and carry forward. And I hope that people continue to do that in the future, is come forward with whatever they've got their thoughts on, because that's what I'm here for. So it's great. So thank you.
More will be revealed.
I know. I say that now.
Yeah, we aren't done with this, but you'll be involved.
Yeah.
It is great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure. All right.
All right, we're moving on to section 3, appointments of officials and personnel. So we are lacking an alternate building inspector, and it has come to our attention that we need one. So we have the building department put forward Roland Bernier, who has acted as an alternate building inspector in the past for the town. So I'm looking for a motion to appoint him as the alternate building inspector for the remainder of this fiscal year. So for a term ending June 30th, 2022.
Madam Chair, I move that we appoint Roland Bernier as an alternate building inspector for a term starting now and ending 6/30/22.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chaz Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kelly, yes.
Good
So
job, Bernie.
Ross will take care of that.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me take it. All right, moving on to meeting business. So 4.1, the budget and the capital requests and the warrant articles. So, if I, hang on 1 second, I have to go through my pages here because I think I put warrant articles as 5.1.
I have to worry about it more.
Really 4.1. Okay, so where would you like to start, Ross?
Well, first of all, I've handed out to the finance committee tonight and to you tonight, the budget book. This has been put together by Misty and I think some of her children. We take any and all assistance in this department. But I've got a revenue section, a tax impact section, the omnibus budget section, and then there's input or tabs from each department. And those that have capital requests, they're in one of the tabs. I think in the front of the binder, there may be the 5-year capital plan.
Where was the slide?
Is that in the front cover?
Right here.
Oh, yes. Okay.
These are all extremely preliminary. So don't take the capital plan as complete. It's what they submitted. It's not necessarily what's been scrutinized by finance, capital, and myself. The same with the individual budgets. I think I've gotten input from almost everybody in the omnibus budget. Where I don't have information, you'll see RP estimate. That was when I was guessing what it might be or level funding it just to have a placeholder. I won't tell you the net increase because I think it's way premature. I don't want people jumping out of windows unnecessarily.
Not yet.
We talked with the finance committee about an all boards meeting on a Saturday. I think the suggestion tonight that we make it February 26th instead of March 5th. I sent a note to Don a few minutes ago to see if he would check with his committee to see if that works. But the intent of that is that to save everybody's time, the finance committee and the selectmen can meet at the same night or the same day and grill boards with their questions. Don suggests that anybody that level funded their budget this year does not need to attend because they won't be beat up any further. So I wish I'd thought of that before I sent out the budget guidance. It might have saved us a few dollars. The big hitters and the ones that are not fine-tuned are obviously the schools, fire department, police department, DPW. Those are the ones that have the biggest impact. I kidded that I beat up the flag committee and I got them to drop their budget 25%. But that effort saved the town $500. So the real emphasis has to be on the $1 million and a couple $1 million line items. Other than that, I think the budget as of tonight is just for you to peruse and start asking questions. If you have questions, send to me or you can contact the departments directly, or you can save them for the Saturday meeting.
So my question is, if we send things to you, in other words, is this dynamic? Will you change it as the comments come in?
Yes.
How frequently will you give us update pages? Like, when do you want, I asked this question last year too. Like, do I have to give you answers by Friday, questions by Friday, and then you'll give it to what, like, how do I know what iteration we're in?
Well, one is I will announce each night when we're discussing it, what the revision is. If you look at the upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner of the omnibus budget, it should say 131.22A, because I had it out yesterday and then I had another change, so I will keep grabbing it.
Where? Oh, I see, 131.22A,
Yeah.
okay.
And in the capital budget, which is in the front folder, says right underneath, probably where it got punched out for the hole punch,
Yeah, I
it says
see it.
131.22. So I'm gonna keep revving these. I don't think there's any cutoff. I mean, until we get towards the end of March, when I want to get it finalized.
So when will we get the next one? Like at our meeting on the 15th? Okay,
Absolutely.
okay,
But I'm gonna be changing this as I get more input. And I will give you an update at your next meeting. And I know that can be frustrating because you probably have a ton of questions that you've written down on one version, only to find out you're getting a new version that doesn't carry forward your comments. Well,
now I'll get it to you by Friday, or the week that you give it to us, and that'll give you a week to monkey with it or whatever.
well, it's, you know, this has been a case of just pulling it all together. Now I'm gonna start sitting down where I've got questions going through the departments, and I will try to tell you what changed from week to week, so you don't have to match them up line by line.
Okay.
But you're seeing in the individual tabs, everything that I've seen, so.
Okay.
Well put together, Ross. Thank you.
So, and capital, since we have a capital planning meeting for the first time on Thursday, so we go through this, that's right here, and then look for, like, if it's highway, go to the highway tab.
Yes, and within the highway tab is their explanation for the capital requests.
And if we want more, like the forms that are part of the capital
Those
Planning
forms, the
process.
forms A and B should be
in
in
there.
the sections.
Okay,
If I got
okay.
them, they're there.
All right, all right.
And I know the superintendent of highway is very diligent on documenting his requests.
Yeah, I
He's
didn't
got-
mean to pick on highway.
Well,
but-
And he's got lots of pictures on why he needs to replace something.
I see that.
He always does.
See pictures of walls.
Well, I think it's rusted panels.
Rusted,
and
yeah.
what those
Yeah.
pictures are of.
Yeah.
Okay,
But this is a dynamic document that will keep evolving each meeting.
Keep changing.
Unless they're budget questions,
I don't have any yet, but I'll get them to you by Friday.
yeah, and I would expect, I wouldn't
You
expect those,
laugh.
Well,
I wouldn't expect those to be your final questions either, but.
Well, actually, it'll probably be Monday. It'll probably be Monday that I get up to you.
So we've gotten, besides the normal sort of standard business town meeting questions, I've gotten 11 so far. One is to define a 35-foot no disturb buffer area. Adopt a community preservation act, and set up a committee that will help fund affordable housing, open space, and historic preservation. See if the town will vote to raise an appropriate available funds of $8,000 for the purpose of funding the assessor's periodic inspections and property data verification. The town clerk has an article to change some of the fee schedule for people requesting birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, and other documents related to that. There's apparently 15,000 left over from the old ATM article that could be repurposed, maybe to something related to MIS or put back into capital. I think the second point is the same.
5 and 6, I think, do the same thing.
Yeah, it's good. So we just reduced one. I think we found some old Unitel bills that we need to pay. There's 3 parcels that you'd like to transfer from the land trust that ought to be considered.
well, from the town to the land trust.
The town to the land
No,
trust.
from the land trust back to the town.
Yeah, I mean, these are just sort of, the language is a long way off from getting the language finalized, but these are just ones that I'm holding as placeholders.
You will be receiving a bigger email about that soon.
To add a fee to the tax bill to cover stormwater management obligations. To move $5,000 into the town's 300th anniversary, which will be celebrated on 2032. And apparently to appoint 3 Townsend residents to the James H. Tucker Fund. So those are what I've got so far. So as we said, the warrant is open until March 1st. Would the board be interested in doing a consent calendar? These are articles that are considered sort of standard business that you do every year. And you give the town a chance to move them all and vote them all as one block. So you might get, I've seen other towns where you get 12 articles voted in 1 minute. But anybody who doesn't want to vote them as a block can have that article pulled out. Let's call it a consent calendar. Something you can think about for how we structure the warrant.
We've never done that in my time in town, but that doesn't mean we can't. I just, like which articles? Are these the ones that say pay people's salaries?
No. It's ones that are sort of standard business, like money to buy town records and make them official. It's money maybe to pay the assessors to do their evaluation, because you have to do that every year. It's ones that are just sort of standard housekeeping that usually everybody votes yes for anyway. I would pick ones that are considered non-controversial, because the whole intent is to have a block that people can say, yes, group these 12 articles together and vote them as a block. And you can pick which ones you want in or out of that 12 of that consent calendar.
So,
My opinion is I think the town really, when we're on that floor, they want to hear each article and be able to have the opportunity to discuss it. I see where you're coming from, Ross. That'd be easy, move through it. I get it, but then the perception is, what are they trying to hide? So for me, I like the transparency. Let people talk, let people ask the questions. That's all I need.
then keep it as is, I guess.
Looks like you could have this.
I would,
Yeah,
in my
no
opinion.
consent block.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous for us.
I think we should have some kind of like a public opinion or public hearing or something to
See what they think
see
about
what the
that,
people
yeah.
think about it.
But don't just
Before
change
town
it
meeting,
now.
you mean the week before town meeting?
Well, no, it needs to be.
I don't mean do
Before-
it right now,
it
I'm
needs to
just
be
saying.
Before we print the warrant. Because we would list the ones that would be in the consent calendar. And when we get that close, I could mark the ones that I think would be eligible to be put in the consent calendar. And you can say yes or no to individuals, or you could say no to the whole concept.
Because there is usually a block of
There's usually
articles
like
that are
Go,
just,
5 or
go,
10 at
go,
the
go.
beginning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, okay, well, they're gonna do these 10, so that's gonna be about half an hour, so I'll come a little later,
Yeah.
you know? I think it's something that we should let the people vote on. You know?
On whether the people want it that
Well,
way or not?
what I've seen done is the moderator asks the town, the voters at town meeting, are you okay with a consent calendar? Explains to them how it works. And they'll say yes or no there. But the board determines what's in the warrant and how the warrant looks. So
Okay.
you will have the prerogative of saying you want a consent calendar or you don't, and if so, which ones are in it. And then the moderator explains it at town meeting and says, okay, can I have a vote to approve this consent calendar? And someone doesn't want Article 3 put in the consent calendar, then it's pulled out and voted separately.
Does that have to be, someone says, okay, I don't want article number 3. And then we have to have a vote on whether to put article on number 3, or is
I think-
one person's request to not have it in that consent sufficient?
I think one person can hold an article on a consent calendar.
And so as long as that's the case, it also presupposes that people have read the warrant before they come in.
I'll tell you what, you don't have to decide tonight. I mean,
Okay,
the
let's
decision
not
to make
decide
is if we
tonight,
see which
yeah.
articles we have,
See what we got first.
And you might say, yes, these are the block that we've done every year. We always vote them, group them together, or throw it out as an idea.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. I just think that we need to have some
We gotta think about
public
this a little bit.
education in
Yeah.
regards to it.
Yeah, I think so.
Madam
Like-
Chair,
Okay.
There's a hand up, Andrea Wood.
No,
No,
it's Lori, isn't it?
that's my hand.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
up, sorry.
yes, it is, Laura.
Yeah, Lori, go
I ju-
ahead.
I just wanted to say that Ross is correct. I have done parliamentarian study, and I know that the Realtor associations, there are consent agendas sent out prior to their directors' meetings. I would suggest that perhaps you speak with John Barrett first before you make the decision, so that he is, so that you are on the same page and that you know how he's going to handle it at a town meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Laura. All right. Anything else on the budget or the warrant or?
I don't think so. I think from here on, we start looking at individual departments and budgets and line items and start asking questions and seeing what we can do to fine tune them. We need an MIS budget.
I know.
I guess if anybody else has any warrant articles to come in, make sure you get them in ASAP.
I'd like for you to, the housing production plan, may need, we're not sure if it's gonna come through or not, but I'd like to put a placeholder for that.
Why? I'm asking why, because my understanding was it only had to be approved by the planning board and the Board of
But
Selectmen.
we've always put it on there traditionally to the town meeting.
We couldn't find that.
If I may, Madam Chair, and
Go ahead,
Chaz,
Laura. Go ahead.
I got an email. We did discuss this at our joint meeting last Thursday. And
Right.
Jody did look into the records to see for the 2015, 2016 meetings regarding our 215 plan. She could not find anything, so she was going to reach out to Karen Chapman to find out just what happened. We may have discussed it in the past, and my memory was not that clear either. I thought it had been at our annual meetings and we voted it. But she is looking into that to find out what we actually did.
And I'm just asking for a placeholder, Lori.
Okay, I would agree with the placeholder, and then if we need it, we have it.
Right.
And that is to approve the housing production plan?
Yes.
But why would we do that?
I'm asking for a placeholder.
Okay,
We
all
can
right,
discuss it at a later time.
all right. My question is, does it require a town meeting vote to be approved?
That's what we're looking into, but I want to put it on there just in case.
That's what I have on budgets and capital and town meeting at this point. Thank you.
All right, moving on to 4.2. A vote to, or a motion to approve the, well, to announce the award of the cybersecurity awareness grant. And I guess I'd like to announce that we are pleased to inform you. Would you like to read this, Chaz?
I can, sure.
Um,
This is, I actually looked at it for the first time today.
This is the announcement of the grant, which we could not announce. And then I need a vote to allow me to go in and sign it.
We all had to take that test. Thanks, Chaz.
You're welcome. This is for everybody's information, I guess. The state has a program through their municipal cybersecurity awareness program that I had filed, I had written the grant to get our employees signed up for it to strengthen our cybersecurity here at Town Hall. And it would only be really for the Town Hall employees at this point. The program itself is geared towards directly to each employee. There was a cyber assessment in the beginning, which each employee will take the assessment, and that'll give us an idea of what areas need strengthening within the organization. There is then 8 targeted emails, which are emails that are testing the abilities of the town's employees. They will be phishing attempts, scam attempts, and they're seeing how the individual will handle those particular emails. There's also at the end another assessment to see how they did throughout the year. This is for 12 months. It's every other month, so approximately 6 segments will be a full 1-hour training that will cover a lot of the areas that were uncovered in the assessment portions of it. And we are one of 100, and I want to say one of 122, I think it was, communities across the state. And that includes school systems as well, that the state has put into the program. And I actually did a little research, and if we did this on our own without getting a grant, that's about maybe $35,000 to $40,000 worth of training that our employees will be getting that we won't have to pay for, that'll all be through the state.
You need to make the motion.
We need to do a lot more than that. This is very labor intensive. So I move that we allow the chair to sign is it an agreement?
The program agreement, yeah.
To sign the program agreement for the 2022 Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Grant.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chess Sexton Duranian, yes.
And
Let us know next time we have to take a test.
so
huh?
I will do this tonight.
And I mentioned at the department head meeting last week that this was coming,
Yeah.
so they had a heads up.
I've gotten a lot of emails. I got people are being very, we have new employees, and the new employees, I think, did you get one, Mike? Did you get an assessment? Good. Each round that is going through, I have to update our email list. So it's very labor intensive. So Joe,
Thank you for your time.
well,
Yes.
yeah, it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But
You'll rethink that next time, won't you?
yeah, the employees are very engaged. I'm getting emails with saying, do I do this? Do I do that? More importantly, we are getting emails that are sent to the individual employee that we can send through Guardian, our IT, to check it because they're suspicious. So it's keeping people on their toes. So I'm really pleased about that.
That's good.
All right, moving on to 4.3. The Conservation Commission would like to update their fee schedule, their fee structure. And so they voted at a meeting to change the fees. So you have 2 papers in the packet. One shows what it was and what it's going to, and the second fee schedule effective February 1st, 2022 is what the new fee structure will be. So essentially, for an RDA, request for determination of applicability, for, it went from $1 per square foot to $1.50 per square foot, and the maximums have changed. That's for a new single family home. For a multifamily, it went from $2 to $2.50 per square foot. And you can see the maximums have changed, and commercial and industrial the same, from $2 to $2.50. The fee structure had not been changed since September 1st, 2010, and it is now 2022.
Yeah, that was my question. So 2010 was the last,
Right, yeah, so if you look at Appendix A at the top, the fee schedule effective September 1st, 2010.
yeah.
We've
oh,
had the
okay.
building commissioner come in and update the fees.
Yeah.
The town clerk has to put it on the annual town meeting for those fees, but everybody has been updating fees. The Conservation Commission has not.
Okay.
So they thought it's time. So, and you can look and see what they've done, you know, $1 went to 125, 250, you know, $2 to 250. That's basically like that all the way through. So, and the new fee structure is the second page.
Mhm.
So, what they need is a vote, and Ross, maybe you can, I don't know if you, for building, for anybody that we appointed, I think the Board of Selectmen has approved, I know, as a board member, as a select board member, I've approved building commission fees. It didn't go to town meeting. The town clerk is different because that's an elected board, but everything else where we are the appointing authority, my understanding was that we could just approve the fee, the new fees, and they would go into effect. So unless it's different from that, I think we need a motion to approve.
We should go through a selectman voting anyway. I can verify whether that's sufficient or whether there's another step.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there a motion to update the Conservation Commission fee structure?
So moved.
All right,
Second,
any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes. All right, so moving on to 4.4 and 4.5, this is the Energy Committee. And it's energy aggregation, and this did come to us around August, July, August timeframe, and we really kind of set it aside and didn't do a lot with it. And so the Energy Committee, and I'm the liaison to that committee, would like to have something definitive on this. So what they had done last winter, spring was hear from energy aggregation companies for the municipal buildings. A lot of places do just residential, but the two places that they were able to find people that would do aggregation was Freedom, and I think the other one was Commonwealth. I don't have that here. I didn't put that in. But anyway, they would like to know if the BOS would like to do municipal energy aggregation. This is for electric rates to, you know, provide, maybe you could talk better than me, Ross.
Well, is this to consolidate municipal buildings and go out to bid for the municipal buildings?
Yes,
This is not to consolidate residents in
right,
what is called municipal aggregation. This is a consolidated purchase for municipal buildings.
for municipal buildings. When I attended the last Energy Committee meeting, they had said that they would like to do it. They would recommend doing it for municipal, see how it goes, and then explore doing it for residential. To get, you know, it's one way to get relief from the electric rates that are going up and
They're
up
out of
and up.
control right now.
Yeah, I hear that the bills this month, we
Went
haven't gotten
really
those yet,
rapidly.
but they're high.
Yeah,
I've gotten a few calls.
Yeah, so,
I can explain why that is if you want to know. but-
I think we should. If you have an explanation, I think that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Okay, so first, why don't you talk about
municipal.
whether you want to go forward consolidating municipal buildings and let
Yeah.
someone go out to bid for that.
Okay, and well, anyway, I wanted clarification from the committee. So Ron Montgomery had come back and he said the Board of Selectmen is to pick the company. They have the two that they recommended. And then they would like, they said that we negotiate the contract. The committee does not negotiate the contract. So, So if we decide to do that, then we need to, you know, contact the companies and say, what can you do for us? Yeah. I don't know who does that. You know, right now, we're a little short-staffed in a few areas. So I think it's a good idea to do aggregation.
I do too.
I think it would be great to do it for municipal buildings. I also think it's worth exploring for residential. But
I think we need to get through all the budget and town meeting before we jump into this.
so this is,
Because, you know, I mean, it's just one more thing that, you know, we're gonna have to put on Ross's shoulders. And I would rather see him spend his time to work on this budget and get the best budget that we can for everybody.
that's the,
And, you know, yes, we have been talking about this. A couple more months is not gonna be, you know, and in my opinion, we'll hopefully have a full-time town administrator here that could do it. I mean, I like the concept. I think it's great. I think it's really important if we could get all the buildings, public, you know, town buildings under one. But more important, if that works out, we can get the entire town that wants to get involved, because quite frankly, I think our utility bills are just absolutely out of control.
but Chaz, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts are, yes, I believe that this is a very good thing for us to look into. I will also say that part of the reason why I did want to run for selectman is to look for reducing the electric bills for the entire town as well, because that's something that we need to look into. Having said that, I also agree with Mr. Shank. I don't think this is, the timing on this is I'd like to be able to have one of us to devote some good quality time to it, and I'm not sure we have it. I'm going to speak for myself here. I know I don't.
I know I don't.
I am so stretched out as far as, and I will say, we all do a lot of work here in town, and I don't think it's appropriate for us to be able to stretch ourselves any thinner than what we are. Having said that, I think we should put our this on an agenda after the town administrator is elected or appointed.
I'll second that.
Okay, so yes to doing aggregation for both municipal and exploring residential,
Yeah.
but no to doing it at this exact session, at this exact time.
Mhm.
And yes, looking into it after we have a permanent TA.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I also want to thank the Energy Committee, because this master plan is phenomenal.
Oh, well, we're not
not
the
there
master
yet?
plan,
Okay.
we're just looking at aggregation.
All right,
That's
so
4.4.
it's just this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of work we need to see coming out of our boards and committees.
Yes, I agree. No for right now. All right, and residential. So we're going to talk about the energy master plan, but before we do, Ross, tell us about the electric rates in town.
Electric rates and or electric bills comprise of three factors. One is a distribution charge. That's what costs utility companies to keep the poles and the wires up. The other is a generation cost, what it costs to make the electricity, whether it be a nuclear power or water power or coal power. That's the generation cost. And the third, obviously, is how much energy people use. A couple things have happened in the time of when people are getting now their December bills. First, the Department of Public Utilities raised significantly the amount of the distribution cost. That's what power companies can charge just to have the wires come into your house. Twice a year, the utility is allowed to go out to bid for generation costs. And the new costs, I think, for Unitil kick in December. They go to bid again in June or July, and often the rates come down in June and July. Rates often go up in the winter, so you're seeing an increase in distribution, an increase in generation, and I'm guessing an increase in use. More people have their lights on in December than they do in June. People have got holiday lights on. It's colder, the furnaces are working harder. So it's a perfect storm as far as creating what appears to be, well, what is a shocking electric bill in December, what it was a few months ago. And that's, I've had people call me saying, you know, I moved into Townsend because my electric bill was going to be $150 a month. I just got a bill for $570.
Right.
I think it's those three factors. A little bit of a pitch for the municipal aggregation.
Could everybody mute themselves, please? Thank you.
Municipal aggregation is when the selectmen get authorized through a town meeting vote to go out to bid for all residents. Now you're combining 4,000 households into one bidding block that gives them collectively the purchasing power of a large industry, if not better. And you can get good rates. Those usually get locked in for 3 years, so you don't get the seasonal increase in December and then the break in the summer. It levels it out, so it's easier for people to budget. You can tell the vendor how much green energy you want in that purchase, more or less than what the state is doing. And it's also a way to fend off. A couple of years ago, there were these people out calling households saying, hey, I'll save you a lot of money on electricity, and they sign up to find out that was only for the first month. Second month, they get clobbered. So this gives them alternative. And that's municipal aggregation, which is a little bit different than consolidating town buildings.
Right.
But anyway, that's why people, I think, are having electric bill shock, no pun intended, when in December. It's those
Oh, we
three
all have
factors coming
Christmas lights
together.
on. We have everything going.
Everything going, and the two main pieces of your bill, distribution and generation, all went up in December.
So just thinking here, why are we separating municipal and residential? Why don't we do the whole thing?
Because the state law that allows municipal aggregation of residents does not include industry or town buildings.
Okay, okay.
But what the electric company, what the Energy Committee is suggesting is consolidating town buildings, because you control the power use in this building, you could control use in the library, water department, police station, fire station. You could decide to put those all together. That gives you a bit of a purchasing block bigger than doing it individually. And there are dozens of brokers who will go out there and probably help you bid that. There's much fewer who can actually do municipal aggregation, because that means reaching out to all the households and educating people on how that system works. Much bigger process.
Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So the other thing that the Energy Committee had brought forward was the Energy Master Plan. And their goal was to create a comprehensive guidance and regulations for the town of Townsend and its residents with respect to energy usage, development, production, and distribution for the municipality, schools, residences, and buildings. So it's almost like this should maybe come first before the aggregation piece. So they have suggested a plan, the makeup of the committee, who gets to vote, who doesn't, that it will dissolve after a period of 3 years, after the Energy Master Plan is approved at a town meeting. So the idea on this is there is a, in the green communities and the energy plan, there were things like, do we want to put solar panels on any of the buildings in town? Do we want to have parking lots that have solar panels? Do we want to have, these are just suggestions, I'm just throwing this out. What about having electric charging stations? Where electric vehicle charging stations, where would they go? And, how important is it? Those sorts of things is what, just an overall look at Energy in Townsend. So, and they said there would be 9 members on the committee, 2 from the Energy Committee, 1 from the Planning Board, the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, a town administrator designee, a member of the Water Department, a non-board member. So Planning Board gets 2, 1 who's a Planning Board member and 1 who may not be. Someone from the Recreation Commission that's appointed by the it doesn't have to be on the Recreation Commission, but appointed by them. So that's how they have this going together. And the Energy Committee will be the appointing authority for that committee. And so they'll pretty much run the committee, is what it comes down to. So there we have it. And then they have a suggested process, which they would decide. So the question is, do we want them to go forward with forming this? Right now, their main thing is the green communities, grants that we have. And administering that, making sure that that gets worked, and when it's time to apply for that grant, to make sure that all the audits are done to see where we could best benefit from grant dollars, just like the process that was done last spring for the current Green Communities grant that we received this summer. So they've been really, really instrumental in that. But this would add a layer to what they're doing.
Mhm. So what are you looking for?
So I asked, the motion on the master plan will be to accept or not the master plan committee, create an energy master plan. To create the committee in order to create an energy master plan. So my question for Ron was, the motion on the master plan will be to accept or not the plan as submitted. So the creation of the master plan committee, and then the creation of an energy master plan.
The master plan committee is separate from the energy committee?
It would be like a subcommittee of that. Yes, it would be separate from. But it would have members from the energy committee on it.
It's just, yeah, Energy Master Plan Development Subcommittee.
So the question is, do we want the energy committee to go forward with forming this energy master plan committee, the subcommittee? And then creating an energy master plan for the town.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the Energy Committee to create the Energy Master Plan Subcommittee.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Anybody on the board, Ross? Anything to say? All those in favor?
Shoshank, yes.
Chad Sexton-Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. All right. Thank you.
Or do we need to have a motion to accept the master plan? What did you say? You said that there were 2 motions.
It's really, it was, the way I wrote it on the agenda was a vote on adopting the plan for developing an energy master plan as put forward by the Energy Committee. So that involves creating the subcommittee, and I think what you said took care of it.
Okay.
So. All right, so moving on to 4.6, this is the open space and recreation plan. Through MRPC, the town has received, MRPC has received an EEA grant to support the update of the Townsend Open Space and Recreation Plan. And so in order to do that, we have to sign a contract. And once the contract is signed, then there can be a kickoff. So Mike, do you have any more to say about that? Because you're the one that will be working with Jeff. Jeff Legros at MRPC is going to be the consultant for the town on that. And we also have an open space and recreation plan committee that was appointed last April, May timeframe in order to get this started. And then Karen Chapman, Carol Hofsey's and I are the only two members of that committee. And the committee is posted on the website because there should be a member from okay, let me go to the website. A member from recreation, a member from all the different boards. And I was the one that created that, who was on the committee. And what I did is I looked at the old master plan. And in the front, it said who was on the committee.
Yeah.
So I just followed who was on the committee last time. It made sense to me that that's where we would draw from this time. So if I go to jobs and volunteering, and I go to open space and recreation. All right. The committee is responsible for updating the town's open space and recreation plan, which is a requirement of the state, and also used as a determining factor in awarding grants for land use projects such as open space purchases and recreation facility development and upgrades. So one member representing the Historic District Commission, and everyone was sent a request, but no one ever was appointed. One member representing the Water Commissioners, that was not appointed. One member representing the Recreation Commission, did not happen. One member representing the Board of Health, no one. One member representing the Planning Board, that's Carol Hofsey's. One member representing the Conservation Commission, that's me. I had gotten myself appointed as a member citizen at large because there's no one from the Selectmen. But then the Conservation Commission turned around and appointed me. I will be happy to be reappointed as a citizen at large if there is someone from the Conservation Commission that would like to do it. But they appointed me as their rep, so I said, okay. So right now, the only two people on the committee are Carol Hofsey's and myself. And I am the Conservation Commission rep. Carol is the planning board rep. So do we want to change this? It says appointed annually by the Board of Selectmen. What I would do is get this reposted and we could do reappointments for the committee. So what do you guys think?
Yes, I think it needs to be reappointed, but do we need to get this into MRPC?
Yes, this needs to be signed. So we need a vote to have, I think it's me.
Yeah.
To need to sign the contract with this. So is there a motion?
Would you be signing as the chair of the Board of Selectmen or as a representative of the?
I would be signing as the chair of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. So I move that the chair sign the agreement between the town of Townsend and the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission regarding the open space. I don't even see it here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's on the
Open space and recreation plan.
Yes.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Shoshank, yes.
Just Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Patel, yes. All right, so we'll get that signed and I'll send it over to Karen tomorrow. Or would you like to send it?
You want to send it over, just make sure you copy it, so that way I can have it on my record.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. All right, do we want to repost the committee?
Yes, I think we
Okay.
should.
I'll do that too. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's 4.6.1. All right. 4.7.
Making sure you're not sleeping, Joe.
You're trying to wake me up. Yeah.
All right, this one, Ross, I think you're gonna talk about.
Yep.
This is the renewal of the lease for cell tower on town property at 12 Dudley Road.
Pass those down, please.
Handouts.
Any of you, all of you know that there is a cell tower
Yes.
on Dudley Road? It's behind the senior center between the schools. Here's a picture of it today. If you want to pass that down.
I did not know. It was-
Yeah.
Certain,
Yeah, I got
at
it.
certain views, it's actually pretty well hidden. Other views, it's open.
Yeah.
It's a lease that the town signed, I think, in 2003 with a company called Northeastern Land Services and Sprint, PCS. Sprint is now merged with T-Mobile. That lease expires this coming October, and if the town wants to renew the lease, it has to do an RFP. So the first question is the town interested in leasing that tower out and that space out again? And if you are, then I've already talked to town council and he's willing to help put the RFP together for a new lease. We were making $1,900 a month back in 2003. It's supposed to escalate 3% a year. So that's roughly $29,000 of revenue that the town's been making this last year on that tower. Presumably we could try to get more out of that. But it is a cell tower on town property. And my question to you tonight is, are you interested in exploring a new lease, or do you want to cancel it? And we'll try to figure out what we do with an old tower.
No, I think we should renew it and try to negotiate the price. They all seem to want to negotiate our prices when we get our bills, so we'll negotiate it to them.
It currently has one carrier on it. I was looking through the design drawings, and it's designed to carry potentially 3 carriers.
Is there not some 911 capabilities on that as well?
I don't believe there is now, but usually when those towers were put in, they were required to host a municipal antenna if they needed to.
And I'm wondering if we can take advantage of that.
All of that should be put into
Should
the
be
lease
explored.
terms.
Right.
It's basically 10,000 square feet, so it's a relatively small footprint.
Mhm.
And I said the tower's already there.
Yeah, and especially going to Patriot, maybe they need to put a tower or an antenna somewhere in the
I'm
middle
thinking
of all
more
of
of a
us.
relay.
Yeah, relay from Mass Street Downs and Pippa. That should be explored, yes.
So is there a motion?
Yeah, I move that we send out an RFP to renew the lease for a cell tower on town property at 12 Dudley Road.
Second,
All those in favor?
Shank, yes.
Essex and Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Carr,
Thank
yes.
you. So we will get that process going. I know that at least one of the providers is, or their land services company seems to be very interested in what we're going to do with that. So.
Yeah.
We'll get more money.
We
Ross.
also have another tower that didn't we just do a lease for the one over here?
The one up on Wallace Hill?
Yes,
Yes, and that went through the planning board.
yeah.
We were both on the planning board when that happened, and I don't know why it came to the planning board unless they were changing.
Was that a new installation at that point?
No, it was
No.
a renewed lease, Ball Road.
Bow Road, yeah.
That
was because of some,
I don't remember.
something that the planning board was in control of, and that's why
Yeah.
the planning board had to deal with it.
Maybe that's the one that's dead up there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Oh, it always drops calls, you're right.
The
It's-
one that
You
had been
always drop
fine
calls on there.
until October or
Yep.
so, and all of a sudden, from halfway up Meadow Road, all Wallace Hill, North End Road, all the way up through Brookline, there's no service anymore.
I drop calls all the time going through there.
Yeah, and it used to be fine.
Well, anyway, we will get the lease renewal RFP started. And Adam, I think will take the lead on that.
Thank you.
All right,
All right, moving on to ARPA projects, and we have a few things there that we need to discuss. So Michael, you have
I'm stepping out. Unless you guys need me to say for anything?
no,
I
Mike,
think
thank
so.
you for your
Thank you
service
so
and
much.
time.
Thank you. All right, so I think I put in the packets, did I? Did you guys get these, the updated ARPA list?
Yeah.
Yes, there they are. Okay, so the only thing that I have to say on those is the FEMA monies are until April 1st, 2022, not April 30th. So just know that. And I think everybody has been notified that they should start looking into using these. I'm pretty sure we have everything set up and accounted. So, we do have 3 candidates for the community services coordinator, and Misty's going to be calling for interviews. So people will be, the interview team will be notified. The additional hours for accounting support, Sherry has asked if her assistant could increase her hours from 10 to 16 hours for the in order to process, photocopy, and track additional invoices. So we've hired Jennifer to look at the definition of the projects and to do the reporting to the federal government. But there's paperwork that's required in between, and Jennifer isn't here to do that. And so she wants to know if it's okay for Lee to have extra hours, and can we use ARPA funds for that?
Are we still waiting for an answer on that?
This is the question just came in. This is the first meeting.
So if we can use ARPA funds, I would say to go for it.
That's, yeah. I
So
agree
which
with
bucket would we take it out of? I know which one I think, but I would take it out of the consultant budget.
Yes.
Because, and then if we have to refill, we put 100,000 for the consultant.
Yeah.
And we're using it in 10K chunks as needed.
Yep.
So that's what we have for the life. I don't know how much this is a week. Do you, Ross? at
Ours
all?
is what?
How much this is a week that we're looking at?
We increase
I
We're only
think what
doing the
she's
6
got
hours, right?
in her budget is 6 times $20.74.
That's what it is.
And I think it was. Look at, well,
So we're looking at $125 a week,
Yeah.
roughly,
roughly.
an additional 125.
I,
So there's 50 weeks, 5, 3, 12, 6,250 per year.
sold. I just, Terry does an awesome job, and
Does a
I
lot of
know
work.
Lee is doing a lot of backup for her,
And
and
this is a lot more work.
it is,
And
it is.
as we hire and start more programs to keep track of it,
Yep.
it's gonna be more fun.
well, and if ARPA is, if Jennifer says we can take ARPA funds, then that reduces her line item in the budget by a little bit. But she's got the increased hours in her line item.
In
budget.
her new budget, so that, yeah.
So we can,
Yeah, help on both
and I
ends.
don't have that here, but Jennifer did say yes to this, correct? I thought she did.
Oh, just need to clarify that.
Okay, so clarify.
If it's clarified that ARPA funds are fine, we can take a vote and move forward. Yep.
Okay, so let's vote with the caveat that if it's
ARPA
okay
funds.
to take it out of the ARPA funds, the
I'm good.
reporting section.
So I move that we use ARPA funds to increase the accountant's assistant to 16 hours a week at $20.74.
Second.
All right. Are we good, Ross?
Just leave out the dollar amount. We'll put it in it. Yeah, she's
Okay.
got $20.74.
All right, so, and it will change over time, but let's just,
Yep, approve the hours.
for the remainder of FY '22 and FY '23.
Yes,
Can we amend it for that?
yep, because it's so amended, and we, yeah, because I know that she needs help right now, so.
And it's an additional reporting requirement that isn't part of the job. You know, you still have your regular job. This is over and above.
Above and
So.
beyond, so yeah. I'm
All
good.
right, so all in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Kessex and Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kelly, yes. Okay, so that was the first one. Earmark acceptance. Ross has accepted the earmark for the gazebo. Is that correct, Ross? You turned in the paperwork for that?
Andrea's got a question too.
I'm pretty sure you sent me an email saying you've done it. Was it you or Vinny? One of you.
I think I did that.
Okay.
Andrea's got a question.
Andrea,
I thought last week you used the end of the ARPA funds plus some other money you were going to get to fund the Greeley Road Bridge. I
the
thought
Greenville Road.
you had
Yes,
spent all
we
your
did.
ARPA funds.
Oh, well, we haven't actually spent them. We've kind of designated an amount in each of the categories. And so one of the categories is reporting. And in that category, we have 100K, and that's where our consultant comes from. So we are going to draw this from that category.
Right.
All of
Thank
this
you.
is dynamic. Yeah, it's all dynamic. It isn't cast in stone. In other words, we say, okay, we're going to set this amount aside, but maybe we don't need all of that, or maybe we need more. So over time, this has to be looked at and revoted, rebudgeted
Right.
We can move things around.
as time goes on. Yeah. So that's where it comes from. So thank you, Andrew, for the question.
You do have some deadline dates though on the use of the money, correct?
We have to have by December of 2024, all projects need to be defined. And all monies have to be spent by December of 2026. So there has to be, I mean, come December, or several months before that, the summer before of 2024, someone's going to have to look at the project, see where we are with the spending, see if we have to rejigger funds here and there, move them around depending on where things are, to make sure and see if we need new projects defined, because everything must be defined by December of 2024. Our first report is due April coming up, and then it's a quarterly reporting cycle. And the reports go to the federal government.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What was the other thing?
Was it allocating time for sick time?
Yes, that was the question that I think you sent, Ross.
Mhm.
You want to say more about that?
With the CARES Act, we were able to, if people were out sick for COVID, they could mention that in their timesheet, and then we get reimbursed, or we could charge that time to the CARES Act, and the employee actually got that time credited back. So I'm asking if we can do the same thing with ARPA funds. because we still have employees who are out due to COVID. And the question is, can we get reimbursed from ARPA for sick time? And if so, then we can credit people back.
Well,
What bucket would we take it out of, though? That's the
If
problem.
we're gonna do that, that's ARPA 15, the other COVID-related expenses, because we did not, we basically sort of allocated all our monies.
Mhm.
So where that would come from is other COVID-related expenses.
And we
And-
Earmarked it. No, we gotta find a better term.
we put aside that $100,000 for other COVID expenses such as the testing. We talked about buying
Kits,
kits,
Any,
you know, so
PPE.
if we
And,
start now changing
mailing.
that, that will eat up a chunk of money that anyone's going out on COVID.
I mean, we can always look and change things around, but right now, we didn't put that in.
Well, or you could do it for a couple months and see how it's tracking. I mean, and hopefully the number of people going out on COVID would decrease.
So I would say from this point going forward, or are you saying go backwards on this? I didn't know that we were doing that with CARES Act money. I don't, did we ever report on the CARES Act? I never got a final report on that.
Well,
I got the dollars, but I didn't get the where it all went.
I believe so, because I know that payroll's been tracking it, and I thought that they were turning over that information to Jennifer for the CARES Act, and we'll be doing the same thing with ARPA funds, if that's approved.
So what bucket would you take it out of? If we're gonna do that right now, we have to figure out. Here's what it comes down to. If we can pay for the Greenville Road Bridge with bipartisan infrastructure, we have another 600K that we can play with.
This my thought too.
But we have to know that we can do that.
Do we have to decide that tonight?
No, I don't think we do.
I'd like
Isn't
more-
that bridge going back out to bid?
Well, I thought it was going back out to bid, but, and we were using these funds to pay for it together with the grant. But if we're gonna do the other, which I believe isn't an allowable expense,
Mhm.
it's just that it wasn't something that came in when we requested from departments and boards, et cetera, et cetera. When we were,
That's the gamble that we were doing. We wanted to make sure it was covered either way. Right?
what do you mean?
Well, we had the funds, either we use these funds to be able to do it, or when the bipartisan bill comes in, if we
Right,
could
right,
use
for the
that.
bridge, you're
Right.
talking about the bridge,
bridge, yeah.
not the sick.
No,
leave.
no.
Okay, yeah, for the
Yeah.
bridge, that's the way we wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I just today sent, I was on that ARPA thing at noon that MMA put on. And I sent the link that Ed Markey was on. It was about ARPA. It wasn't about the infrastructure bill, but he sent this, he put this link in the chat. So I grabbed it and I sent it to
Yeah,
Ross
sent
and Vinny. And I might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and February 1st was the date where the federal government was supposed to come out with how you're going to capture those funds.
Yep.
And I haven't even looked at it today. So, I grabbed the link, that was it. So if we can pay for the bill, if we can pay for the bridge with the bipartisan infrastructure bill, if we can apply for those funds to pay for that, then we have the funds to pay for the COVID illnesses.
Well, we would have more funds to be able to put on ARPA projects.
Right, that's right.
Because I heard that bridge may come in at half of what it was bidded out for.
Right, so let's wait for that.
So
to
let's
come in.
wait till we see there. and
My
go from
question
there.
is how much, I'd like to know how much money we've spent already, or how much was taken out of the CARES Act for COVID, just to give us an idea of what it is. think it's too, for me, I need something a little more concrete than,
Just say, yeah, let's put them, everybody on the COVID.
yeah.
Here's the other question. How many times can you have COVID?
Well,
And how do we, I mean, anyway,
Well, because you can't question them. If they say they're sick, you can't question them,
right,
right,
you know? I mean, as an employer, you know, you call in, hey, I got COVID, you know? Or what you do? I tested positive. Okay, well, you know, there's no tracking that right now.
right.
And be honest with you, and I've heard in my industry that there's a lot of people taking advantage of that, you know, just call in sick and, you know, the boss files, you know, they get paid, and that's kind of tough.
So you're right, because a lot of people either test positive or someone in the house is tested positive. They don't go, or they even have it themselves and they don't go to the doctors because they're not that sick. So
Right.
there's no doctor's note that we can request. Sending in a picture of your positive test kit is not really inclusive.
Get
Well,
anybody's.
this is what I think. I think we should reevaluate this once we, this is not a no, it is a no. It's kind of like, let's hold off on this until we figure out the bridge.
Sure.
And then we have more money to play with to use
Then
for
if we
other
can-
things.
But
And
we need to advise all employees as well as payroll, whether COVID sick time is recredited to them, to their
Yeah,
sick
I
time.
don't know that yet.
Or not.
I wouldn't jump on that because it's, as far as I am concerned, I think that COVID sick time is being abused throughout the entire country. That's,
Well, I can't comment on that piece. What I have encouraged department heads when I met with them last week is to do their best due diligence to be sure people aren't abusing it. And that's not easy because there's no simple test they can
yeah,
apply,
no, you really have to take people at their word.
but this needs to be on the honor system initially. And so the question, I believe now we are crediting people for COVID sick time.
that's
Hoping-
coming, hoping that they're gonna get reimbursed.
Yes. So it's probably a two-part question. One is, do you want to continue the crediting to their sick time? And then, if so, do you want to try to apply for it under our,
So the crediting to the sick time, what is the stipulations in regards to that? Is that promised, or is that just, if we are able to get funding for it, then you'll get reimbursed?
we might be able to do that. I've got to check to see what's sort of the standard practice now for CARES sick time.
That's the kind of stuff that I want to be able
yeah, but the
to.
CARES
It's a
Act is,
matter-
but the CARES Act is done, so now it's something different. So I mean, whatever the protocol was as far as I'm concerned, that was the federal government jumping in on all that. So if that program is done, the government ain't saying, well, we'll keep giving you, no more CARES Act, the money's done, it's done,
The CARES Act is done.
it's done.
That's
So
done.
we can't,
The ARPA money was handled differently. It was
Right.
given to us.
Right.
And then we get to decide how to spend it. And when we did our initial, how should we spend this money? We asked all departments and boards what they would like to see, and we went from there.
right,
And right now, everything's pretty much spoken to.
mhm.
Except it's the infrastructure bill. That,
Yeah.
if we can get
If
things
we can
that we
free up
have,
some
the
ARPA
ARPA
money.
fund, we can free up.
Up something, then maybe we could consider crediting them back, but I don't think it's the town's responsibility to pay all that back for sick time. I mean, where does it stop? I mean, where does this go? Then everybody would might as well just open the doors for everybody, say, well, if you call us in and you're sick, you got COVID, or your family members got COVID, I respect that, and it's sad. But when you listen to the TV and you listen to all the doctors, we're all going to get it at some point. Does that mean the town of Townsend has to pay every single person? That's why they have sick time. use their sick time.
Well, I will verify if there's a state law or guidance that's saying what you should do about crediting or not crediting. Because the second part then is whether the town gets reimbursed for that.
Right.
So here's the thing, I mean, your sick time gets, as long as you have sick time, it gets paid anyway. You're paid. You don't lose, as an employee, you don't lose pay. What you do lose are the sick hours. And then it's a matter of, is the town getting the money back for COVID time? And that's what apparently we did under CARES Act. Or,
I think there's still a provision there, because I've had a couple of my employees went out with COVID. I could have sent the paperwork into the state and they would reimburse me. So I think that's where I would start with the state, because I do think that program is still going on. And if that's the case, find out what we need to do. And if we can get it through the state, I'd rather see do that than use our ARPA money.
my guess is it's a program for small businesses, not for municipalities.
Yeah.
But it's worth checking.
Well, yeah, I would.
I guess we don't have a definitive answer right now.
Okay. Well, we've got some questions to answer, so that's fine.
Okay. Should we bring this back to the next? All right. And let me just look here and make sure that that was all I had. Oh, I'm gonna put on the website the mortgage and the mortgage program through the state for mortgage assistance to prevent foreclosures, overdue mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, and homeowner fees. The state homeowner assistance fund, which you applied directly to the state for. So I'm gonna put a thing up on news on the website for this. Vinny took some time today to figure out how this works and sent me all the information. So I'll get that up on the website. I put fuel assistance on the website because we have not yet had the cards that were to be sent to all of the town residents, So I put that on the website, and I am eventually going to update the town projects and the COVID-19 tabs. I was hoping that we would have a webmaster to do that, but we don't yet. So there you have it. That's all I have. For
ARPA. Thank you.
Thank you.
town administrator updates and reports.
Well, they're gonna be short because we've covered some of it tonight.
Okay.
We need to do the town's annual report, and through a lead from Terry, I've contacted Rebecca Burnham from Ashford, who's gonna work as a contractor to help work on the annual report. So any ones that haven't sent in the annual report, Selectman, town administrator, need to get going.
Oh. Who writes the selectmen's report? Oh, well, okay.
I think that says Madam Chair.
And you can reverse that direction when you ask who writes the town administrator's report.
And point to you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, when do we have a deadline?
Yeah, it was
Yesterday.
January 28th.
Oh, no, oh, okay.
Um,
When does it go to the printer?
Well.
January 29th?
No, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm hoping to have it ready ahead of town meeting, which means go to the printer, get printed, come back
Yes.
ahead of town meeting.
So how much time, when do you want me to get the report to you? Seeing as how I missed the first deadline, I'm thinking of just taking a picture of me, Joe, and Chaz, and we'll just put that.
Your discretion as chairperson. Next week will be fine. Following week will probably is okay.
I mean, what are you doing after the meeting tonight?
Writing the minute.
Madam Chair, I'll entertain by me throwing some stuff at you and then you can put
Yeah,
your
it will go
wordsmith.
back and forth.
You
Yeah.
want to do that? I don't have a
Okay,
problem.
I'll
doing
look
that.
at what's in
Can we
other
do that?
annual reports.
Okay.
So,
And then when you get something done, the board can vote to approve
I'll add a thing on SharePoint and we'll just plop the file in there and we can,
So what year are we doing this for? FY 22 or are we doing FY 21?
It's calendar year 21.
21.
Calendar year.
Yep.
21.
So
Oh,
you're responsible for January until I was elected.
till Joe was elected. And then-
No, I'm gonna write I can write what I can write when I was on
Okay,
board.
and I go from, okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Calendar year 2020. All right, thank you.
As part of sort of long-range planning, what do we do with the old library across the street here? I took a representative from a document management company through there today to look at what to do with the hundreds and hundreds of boxes of files that are in there.
Mhm.
I mean, talk about disease exposure going in there. Anyway, so his company actually does that. He says he's seen a lot worse than that location. And he's going to give us a quote on sorting the documents as to which ones can be thrown out, which ones need to be retained, which ones can be digitized, and then storing the ones that have to be kept. And this will give us, in my mind, a sort of a budgetary idea of what has to be done. And then we can figure out how to fund it. Maybe he says he's had towns that needed $10,000 of work and they did it over 10 years. I think when we see the number, we may say this is a multi-year project, but it may be something that ends up as a capital request warrant article to fund some portion of this. It'll be up to you all to decide if you want to do that, but I think that building has so much potential. You can't do anything until you get the
Clean
tons
that
and
up,
tons of
yeah.
paper out of there.
Gotta get that out.
So that's something kicking around that if we get that cleaned out, then maybe there ought to be a library reuse committee.
I think that's a big fat yes for me.
And me.
Well, I tell you, I go through there and I just cringe because there's no way I would want to send department heads from here over there and say, start cleaning out your stuff.
It's a hazard.
And,
It's a hazard physically and, health-wise.
yeah, and, you can't just sort stuff. You gotta have a place to put them. I think digitizing them makes sense. He says they have ways of scanning like all the assessors cards. They're just stacks and stacks. They know how to, they'll all be something that then can be searched digitally.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's,
So anyway, I
yes.
think that's a long-term project. This will help put a number on it. And we can decide what to do for that. And that is the rest of my report. The rest we covered earlier tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ross. Liaison reports. Public safety, general government, elected boards.
As public safety, I don't have no real update, other than, fire department, police department, I haven't heard of any issues going on. Update as far as the communication center, I think that whole process is moving forward. I did hear, I don't know if Ross can confirm it, that 911 has accepted us to move to Patriot. And I think everything there is moving forward. And I think it'll be a great asset for the town of Townsend to be with Patriot. And fire department, I think everything over there is running really well, smooth. So, just count our blessings and keep moving.
Yeah, if I can just comment on that. I sat in on, actually, I was invited to a 911 meeting with State Director Frank Posiak last week. And he was responding to our notification in December that we plan to remove ourselves from there. He sent a notification to us, a little bit irritated that we weren't doing it with his permission. And we explained, well, per our contract, we had to notify them. That's all we're doing. We're more than willing to work with him. So at the end of the meeting, I asked, is the state 911 department okay with us moving to Patriot? He said yes. So he's not going to be a roadblock to that. And I asked the Neshoba folks if there's any significant separation costs to get out of there. That's a budget issue. And they said they didn't think so. So I think, as you said, that process is moving ahead, and July 1 is the target date to switch over. I think Director Pozniak's concern was that all the communication be ready so that someone answers 911 first day. And
that's what they're working on.
everybody else's intention as well.
That's it for me.
Chaz, do you want to go?
I have attended meetings, nothing really to report. I think that the recreation department, I know that we are looking for summer program, where to put the summer program. We want to make sure that it's someplace where the kids are going to be safe and they can get to on an easy basis. I think that I'd like to throw out that it's the Squanicook School is what they're looking at. That's where they were before. They're looking at the approximate size of what they're doing. So they're working on that. I know that their ski program is doing really well. That's a great service for people in town. And you know, outside of just kind of being a liaison to the other boards, the water department, the planning board, you know, nothing really major to report other than the boards and committees are chugging right along. It was really nice to be able to see the planning board, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Housing Authority all work together in conjunction on the housing production plan. I thought that was really refreshing to see all the boards and committees talking and working together. I think we need to have more of that. That's something that I've been pushing. I'm really excited to see the what we talked about with the Energy Committee. I mean, this is how town government runs. Everybody has a voice. If you want to have a voice to join any committee, we have plenty of openings. So if anybody is looking to spend an hour or two for public service, we can certainly use you.
All right, thanks, Chaz. All I have to, the Adams Dam grant was, Mike submitted that today
Good.
for the consultant along the river bank. Housing production plan meeting that I attended for the Affordable Housing Trust. We have a meeting on Thursday for the trust. Also on Thursday, capital planning will meet for the first time. And the audit for the audit committee for the town, the RFP went out last week for FY 22, 23, and 24.
Good.
That's done. So, all right, any announcements or communications? I didn't find anything in those folders. So I didn't see anything to put in. Have you seen anything, Ross, come in mail or anything? Nope. Okay, so no announcements or communications. Our next meeting is February 15th at 6 p.m. I have a question for you guys. I was going to call MRPC and see if Brad Harris would meet with us. What I'm wondering is, do we want to make that a separate meeting with maybe Mike and Vinny, maybe you, Ross, I don't know, outside of a Board of Selectmen meeting to talk about the walkability, bikeability at the Elm Street? Do we want to meet separately first as just staff, or do we want to meet with him and a Board of Selectmen? What's the best way to do that?
I'll be in a separate meeting.
Yeah, separate meeting, then come. in front of the
And
board.
then come in front of.
Because right now I had that on the meeting for tonight, and then I moved it to the 15th. And I was going to pick it up and move it to the next meeting, but I think really I would rather have a discussion with him ahead of time before we do anything else. So, okay, that's what I'm going to do for that agenda. All right, is there a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session?
There's some outside there for you to sign
I
tonight.
signed already.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes. And is there a motion to?
Well,
adjourn?
next meeting is the 15th, right?
Yes.
And I will absolutely not attend that because I won't be in the country.
Okay.
So, just so we know, anything I need to deal with before I leave. And I'm gonna leave on Saturday. Any signatures, anything before I leave, I'll come make sure everything's done.
We'll discuss your salary and then.
Well, I've still been waiting to get paid, so I haven't got it yet.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn at 8:33 PM.
Second,
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Thank you, everyone.